Hello, my name is Adam Nandra, and welcome to this training episode on acceptable terminology relating to race and racism in schools. Today, we will explore key terms, discuss their appropriateness, and consider the importance of specificity when talking about race. From the Race Equality Survey sent to schools in East Sussex in July 2024, we found that confidence in using the correct terminology was generally low. Staff expressed uncertainty about identifying people with a variety of heritages and what terms were considered appropriate. This training aims to provide clarity and confidence while acknowledging that language in this area evolves and what is acceptable today may not be in the future. Why specificity matters. Research consistently shows that generalized racial terms can erase individual identities. A study by the Runnymede Trust, 2021, found that broad terms like BAME, Black, Asian, and minority ethnic, do not reflect the lived experiences of different racial and ethnic groups. Specificity allows for more accurate representation, fostering inclusivity and respect. A further 2022 report by the Centre on Dynamics for Ethnicity highlighted that racial and ethnic labels impact people's sense of belonging. Over 60% of respondents in their study preferred more specific identification, such as Black Caribbean or British Pakistani, rather than umbrella terms. Let's explore some commonly used terms and their acceptability. People of colour or person of colour. While widely used in North America, this term is less common in the UK and can feel homogenizing. Some prefer specific racial or ethnic identifiers instead of an all-encompassing category. Essentially, these terms relate to anyone who is non-white, and this can be seen as othering. BAME, or Black, Asian, and minority ethnic. Increasingly seen as outdated and problematic because it lumps together diverse groups with different experiences of racism. Many institutions, including the UK government, have moved away from using this term. It groups together huge numbers of people and strips away their identity. Global majority, a term that acknowledges people racialized as non-white make up the majority of the world's population. However, some argue that it may not resonate with individuals in predominantly white societies. It is, however, a term that is commonly seen as acceptable. Racially minoritized. This term recognizes that minoritization is a process imposed by structures and institutions rather than inherent characteristic. It shifts focus from numbers to power dynamics. It is usually seen as an acceptable term. Asian, a broad term that can be misleading. In the UK, Asian often refers to South Asian communities, such as Indian, Pakistani, or Bangladeshi. Whereas in the US, it often refers to East and Southeast Asian populations, such as Korean, Japanese, or Chinese. When possible, use specific national or ethnic identities. Asia is the most populated continent on Earth, and homogenizing a group of billions of people can be rather problematic. African. This term covers a vast and diverse continent. Where possible, use more precise identifiers, such as Nigerian or Ghanaian. However, in some contexts, African may be appropriate if specificity isn't known. Black. Generally acceptable and used as a political and cultural identity. However, it is always best to follow individual preferences and specify national or ethnic backgrounds where possible. White. Unlike many other racial categories, white is often treated as a default, which can be problematic. However, recognizing specific heritages, such as Irish, Polish, or Jewish, can be meaningful and help people's identities to be seen. Brown, sometimes used to describe people of South Asian, Middle Eastern, or Latin American heritage, but it lacks specificity and can be controversial. There are many people who would refer to themselves as brown, but there are also many people who would find this offensive. It is important to be specific and, when possible, to ask people how they identify themselves. White privilege refers to systemic advantages afforded to white people due to racial hierarchies. It does not mean white individuals have not faced hardships, but acknowledges the benefits of whiteness in societal structures. We should be careful we do not use this term as a weapon. It is important discussion place, but should not be used to describe people as racist. Mixed race or mixed heritage. Mixed race is commonly used, but can be problematic as it implies racial categories are biologically fixed. Mixed heritage is often preferred as it recognizes cultural and ancestral backgrounds. Ethnic minorities. Some prefer racially minoritized rather than ethnic minorities, as it highlights structural dynamics, but ethnic minorities is still in common use. When possible, specify ethnic identity instead of using broad terms. So, in conclusion, language is evolving and terminology will continue to change. The most respectful approach is to ask individuals how they identify and to be open to learning. Making mistakes is not a problem. By focusing on specificity and listening to people's preferences, we can create a more inclusive and respectful environment in schools. Thank you for your engagement in this important conversation. If you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out.